that anyone here might have. And just a reminder, as always, that there's no such thing as a wrong question or a silly question. Sometimes people worry, oh, I've got a really stupid question. If it's something that is coming between you and the truth of you, something that's coming between you and living in that full truth of you, then it's the right question. So we'll start with one from that's come in advance. Is it normal to feel disconnected from events going on around you? The war in Ukraine is happening so close to me, but I'm not engaging in it. And I feel like somehow everything will end up as good as it can be. But then that makes me feel guilty, because how can I not be sad about it? We live on several different layers of existence. And each of them is beautiful, and each of them is really important. On the deepest level of who we are, well, we're divine. We're one with God. Everything is God. It's like I was saying on the Ghat in Arti. We are Purn. Everything is Purn. Everything is the perfection of the divine. And so from that perspective, everything is perfect. There's nothing to do. It's all God. War, peace, famine, violence, misery. Right? On that level, these things don't exist. On that level, it's just God. There's no full stomach, empty stomach. There's no rich, there's no poor. There's just God. And so, to be able to access that level is actually really very spiritually healthy, very spiritually beneficial, because it pulls you out of the constant pain of, oh my God, people are dying. Oh my God, this war is going on. It's insane. Oh my God, what people are doing for money, for power, for land, what people are doing in their own homes, to their wives, to their children, what people are doing to our environment. I mean, otherwise it's incredibly overwhelming, because there is so much violence and misery. And if we can't drop into a place in which it's all perfect and it's all God and this is all just barely a blip on the yugas, the ages, the eras for which we've been going around and around. There's a beautiful saying that if there were a bird, and the bird had in its beak a silk scarf, and there was a mountain, and the mountain was a mile high and a mile wide. And this bird with the silk scarf in its beak flew by the mountain once a year. And its silk scarf just grazed across that mile-high, mile-wide mountain once a year. The amount of time, the number of years that it would take that silk scarf to eventually erode the mountain is actually as long as we have been doing this. And so when you think about it from that level, some hunger, some pain, fighting here, hugging there, famine here, plenty there, wealth here, poverty there, success here, failure there. If you see it from that perspective, they're inconsequential blips in these eras, in these yugas. And to be able to drop into that is actually a really beautiful in the midst of the pain that we experience, when you see that kind of violence, and yet, at the same time, disconnection is never the answer. So the questioner says, I feel disconnected. Well, we don't want to be disconnected ever. Dropping deep into the perfection of the divine is not being disconnected. It's actually just being connected to the depths rather than the surface. It's like in the ocean. You can be connected to the waves on the surface of the ocean, or you can be connected to the depth of the ocean. And they each serve different purposes. Right? If I like to surf the waves, if I like to boogie board or whatever it may be on the waves, great. But if I want to anchor myself to a place where there are no waves, well, then I need to go deep. And as far as our human existence, it's really a matter of this very beautiful shift in our focus from one to the other. Ideally, we hold both of them simultaneously in our hands. It's all God. It's all perfect. And I must, with every minute and every moment, do whatever I can to bring peace, to bring healing, to feed the hungry, to bring medicine to the sick, to bring education, to bring hope, to be those beautiful instruments of light, of hope, of love, of food, of shelter, of whatever it is I can bring, of water, of clean air, of clean soil. And it's all perfect. It's all God. And we live with both. And the benefit of that is that we serve, we keep serving, and yet there isn't that level of panic and stress that this is all there is. Because if I lose sight of the it's all God, it's all perfect, then no matter how beautiful and successful of an instrument as I may be, No matter how many people I may feed or give medicine to or heal or clothe or educate, ultimately my own mind and my own heart will not be in peace. Because you can never do enough. I mean, none of us can ever actually do enough. There's way more hungry people than we can feed. There's way more illness. There's way more violence than any of us can actually fix. And so if I don't have that other place to drop into, then even service itself can become depressing. Because the more you do, the more you're aware of how much there is to do. The more you serve, the more you realize how many there are to serve. It's like a Pandora's box. Oh my God, I thought it was just here. And then you realize there's so many. Like we run a school. It's got about 250 kids coming every day for free education. Beautiful. And yet, there's so many more kids who need to come that there isn't room for. So now it's a matter of, okay, we need to rebuild the school. We need to do brand new construction because there's more than we can. And then, okay, another school. And that's just in a tiny area of this state we call Uttarakhand, and this country we call India. Then you think about the world. So we need to have that place to drop into where it's all God and it's all perfect. And there's a bird and she runs this silk scarf across a mountain. And in all the time it takes the mountain to be completely worn down, well, that's as long as just I, have been coming back in different forms with different work, different dharma, serving in different ways. And it takes a little bit of the, oh my God, we have to get it done this second. Oh my God, what do you mean? There's not enough space? It takes a little bit of that out of it. And then from that beautiful place, we actually end up more inspired to serve, because from that place of it's all God, we realize, oh my God, all of these children are God. How can they be deprived of an education? All of these sick people are God. How can we not treat every one of them? And then we get even more inspired to serve, because we're connected with that perfection, that we are one and they are one. And then they are us, and so of course we have to serve. And so it's not either or, it's both. But it's definitely not disconnection. If you're feeling disconnected, it's much more likely that you're pushing things away, that you don't want to get engaged. And that's something to be looked at, because we are not here to sit this one out. No one took birth with a stamp on their rear end that said, yeah, I'm going to spend this one on the bench. Every one of us, no matter what circumstance, what karmic package we've come into this world with, had that stamp on us. This one, you're in the field. You're up to bat. Every one of us. And so we don't want to be disconnected. We want to be deeply connected. But deeply connected to those suffering in Ukraine. so that at the bare minimum we can pray for them. Deeply connected to those who are bringing this horrific violence, so that again, at the bare minimum, we can pray that their hearts should be purified. Deeply connected to all of those suffering in their own homes, on battlefields, on the streets, and deeply connected to the divine perfection. And all of that simultaneously is actually that beautiful soil in which our spiritual lives blossom. Are there any questions that anyone here might have? Yes.
A lot of books on self-help. There are a lot of books on self-help. Why there are no books on helping others?
Ah, beautiful. Lots of books. There's lots of books on self-help, but no books on helping others. Well, it's interesting, because we actually need our own help just as much as others need our help. And interestingly, until and unless I help myself, on the deepest level, I'm not really going to be beneficial to others. Now, I don't mean the self-help that says, buy this book and I will teach you how to manifest millions. So then you can have that private plane or that boat that you've always wanted. Not that type of self-help, but the self-help that says, I will help you know the truth of who you are. That fullness, that completeness, that soul, that spirit. Because when you know that, then interestingly, you actually are able to help the world. See, if I feel like I'm lacking, that I don't have enough, that I'm not enough, I'm not successful enough or rich enough or beautiful enough or whatever it may be, then I'm not going to be able to give of myself to others, because then my way of moving through the world is to grab, because then I need more. I'm lacking. I'm not enough. I don't have enough. And so then my whole way is going to be, I need money, I need achievements, I need acclaim, I need appreciation, I need attention. I need all of that because I don't feel like I'm enough. And if I'm clamoring for more and more attention, or more and more acclaim, more and more achievements, more and more possessions, well, then I'm not going to be able to really serve others. Because whatever I do, even if it's humanitarian work, is all going to be about me getting a gold star. Right? Here I am giving a sandwich to the needy selfie. Right? Slow motion, giving the sandwich to the needy. Make sure we've got 10 clips of the sandwich feeding the needy. Because then it becomes all about me. And so I'm not actually able to really give to anyone. Because I'm always looking for what am I going to get out of it. And so the type of help that we really need is help feeling and knowing that fullness in us. So whether we call it meditation, spiritual awakening, spiritual connection, satsang, whatever word we use for that which we are teaching, sharing, practicing, doing, these are all ways to experience the fullness of who I am. A, because then of course I feel peaceful and I feel joyful. But B, because then I'm actually able to be an instrument for others. But yeah, it would be great if we had books on how to serve others. The problem is, would people buy them, right? It's all about what sells. It's the same concept of why the media is always sharing scandal and misery, right? Every day. How many beautiful things happen in a day? How many people are helping others in a day? How many people are going out of their way, giving their lives to serve others? There's no news about that. It's not breaking news. Breaking news, someone did not sit at home on Facebook tonight and actually cooked food for the homeless people. Breaking news, someone actually took their weekend, their summer vacation, their Christmas bonus, and dedicated it to others. That's not news. News is a scandal. Whether it's violence or whether it's just who's kissing whom. Right? I mean, this is what news is. Oh ho ho, did you see how she was talking to this one? They left together, hand in hand. What's brewing? Scandals, violence, sex. This is what sells. Good deeds don't sell newspapers. And in the same way, how can I help others, sadly, doesn't sell books. But I have faith that it will eventually. Because as soon as we actually get over ourselves, as soon as we realize I am okay. When I was a really, really little kid, there was a book that we all had called I'm Okay, You're Okay. And I don't remember the rest of it, but it was really sweet. Right, Hannah? I'm okay, you're okay. It was a whole children's book. It was this beautiful, inspiring children's book to teach little kids, I'm okay, just however I am. You're okay, however you are, we are okay. Life is okay. We need these books, not for little kids. We need these books now for people of every age. Teenage suicide is skyrocketing. Drug abuse, alcoholism, people on antidepressants. I mean, it's skyrocketing. We don't think we are okay. And so we're turning to so much to try to make us feel okay. And when we give up, we're killing ourselves. And so as long as we think there is something wrong with us, we're going to keep buying books on how to help ourselves. Lose your weight, make your money. But as soon as we realize, I'm okay. In this moment, this breath, I'm actually okay. Only then will I start to be able to turn my attention to, oh wow, I am so okay. that, hey, I'd really like to help you out. I am so okay. Let me give you a hand. So first we have to help people understand that they are okay. We need an I'm okay book for adults. Maybe we should do that. And then you'll have people flocking bookstores looking for how can I help others. Beautiful. Does anyone else have any questions? Sure, of course.
As you told earlier, and I also think that there is a disconnect between the inner world and the outer world. Man is restless. He does not know the meaning of contentment. He is running, all right, but he does not know the direction.
Absolutely.
He is only concerned about the speed. He does not know cooperation. He only wants competition.
Competition, exactly.
So, where this world will end, I think human beings ought to be taught that they are not body, they are spiritual.
Absolutely.
Until unless these lessons goes inside everyone, I think the Gita teaching of avoiding kama, krodha and lobha.
Yes.
So I want your elucidation on this point.
Sure. So, absolutely. We are moving in many ways in the wrong direction. And as you said, we're focused on speed rather than direction. Mahatma Gandhi said so beautifully, what's the point of running so fast when we're running in the wrong direction? What's the point of the speed that has no direction? Well, it's Gandhiji. We'll all clap for Gandhiji. I don't get credit for that. The dilemma is the type of education that you're talking about isn't the type of education that we're giving in our schools. Teaching children the teachings of the Gita, teaching them to avoid lust and anger and greed. Well, this isn't religious education. This is what you could call value-based education. And this is why it's so important. Because our education these days is taking us to great heights with technology, science, to outer space. But that world of inner space, as we were just talking about, is getting more and more diseased. More and more depression, more and more anxiety, more and more addiction, more and more suicides, more and more divorces. By every marker, things outside are better. Like if you look at, development statistics, number of hungry people, number of people living below $1 a day of poverty. These numbers are actually getting better. But if you look at our inner world, it's getting worse. And this is where we need this value education so badly. We need it in our schools, but we also need it in our homes. And the problem is that parents themselves are running after external things. Parents themselves are stuck in lust and greed and anger and distraction. Distraction needs to be, it's going to be like the 8th deadly sin, right? Give it a little while and we're going to have the 8th deadly sin of distraction. Because it's pulling us off center just as much. as lust or greed or anger or envy or all of the other things we don't want to have. But as parents, if we are stuck, well, that's what we're going to give our children. We are creating children who don't think they're okay. Because as parents, we don't think we're okay. As parents, we are constantly talking in the home. Who has more than we do? We're complaining. We're grumbling about this one in the office, this one. We're constantly comparing. We're complaining. We're competing. And so it's what children learn. And this is where, as parents, our duty is not just to give our children food and shelter, clothes, but actually to give them sanskaras, which means I have to live them. I have to live that. And so, first in the home, then in the school, but we need as a society to put emphasis on this. We are the ones who make decisions. We are the parents. We are the teachers. We are the school boards. It's not like somehow spaceships are landing from other planets that want planet Earth to, kill each other and die and commit suicide and have climate change. It's not being sent by some warring planet that's just waiting for us to destroy ourselves. And they send little Martians on Earth to, teach our kids the wrong things in school. We are the teachers. We are the parents. We are the principals. We are the ministers of education. We are the secretaries of education. We are the ones voting in the ministers. We are the ones making these decisions, paying tuition to schools. And so we as a society have to change. And the core reason to change is to say, are we actually happy? Forget our children for a moment. Let's just assume we are the most self-centered people. Forget our children. Forget helping others. Are we actually happy? Is everything that we have actually enough? Okay, you've spent 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years running to make more, to get more. Is it enough? Are you done? Are you satisfied? And if not, then what on earth makes you think one more? Or another week, another month, another year? If up until this moment, everything you've done has not produced, created enough, what makes you think that it'll ever be enough? On that path, it won't. And so as a society, we need to actually simply accept, okay, we are running in the wrong direction. We are not actually deeply satisfied. Which means that we need to redirect our attention to that which gives us a sense of deep peace, deep meaning, which is our spiritual practices. And it doesn't mean don't have a job. Have a job, of course. Succeed, thrive, do fantastically. Arjun had a job. He was ready to quit his job and go to the mountains. And Bhagwan Krishna said, no way. Not so fast. So it's not about quitting your job, but it's about not thinking that all of this is ever going to be enough. And realizing that enoughness has to come from somewhere else. That enoughness has to come from going within, to changing the direction. Or at least to slowing down the speed a little so I can even figure out where I am. We can only teach our children what we have. We can only give them what we have. And if every time I look in the mirror I say, oh my God, I'm so fat, or oh my God, I'm so ugly, or oh my God, I can't believe I have to wear this old sari again because you didn't get that promotion, or I didn't get that promotion, and I don't have enough money, and everybody else has brand new beautiful clothes and I don't have them. If every time I do that, well, my kids are listening. And what they're learning is, oh, okay. So happiness comes from liking what you see in the mirror. And you're going to like what you see in the mirror when it looks like what you see in the magazines. You're going to like what you see in the mirror when you've got nicer things than everybody around you. Well, this is what our kids are learning. And so we have this beautiful opportunity to actually change for ourselves. Don't do it for anyone else yet. We're still in the self-help part of the bookstore. Do it for yourself. Even forget your higher self, your divine self for a moment. Do it for your ego self that wants to be happy. Do it for even just that small individual self that recognizes that you're not really fully happy. And then as you start to go deeper, suddenly you find, my higher self. There it is. And the more you tap into your higher self, interestingly, the more joy there is. The more peace there is. The more happiness there is. And the more you tap into that, then the more you're able to give that to others. Your children. And the more we tap into that, the more pakka we are about what our children are learning. I mean, could you imagine sending your kids to school where with the midday meal, your kids got a beer? I mean, could you imagine that your kids come home from school one day and they say, oh, you know what, today at school, along with our cafeteria meal, we all got beer. Now, would you take that? I mean, would you say, oh, all right, I guess that's the new thing? Or would you say, oh, God, that's really too bad, and then you just call each other and you complain, but nobody actually does anything? You'd storm that school. You would show up first thing the next morning, long before the school gates opened, an army of parents. You would shut that school down for giving your kids beer with lunch. I mean, could you even imagine? Or could you imagine that there was a class in sort of life experiments, and one day they are teaching them to smoke cigarettes, and the other day they've got them, taking off their clothes and having sex with each other, and then the other day, you'd pull your kids out of school. You'd storm the school. You'd file court cases against the school. You would not rest until it was changed. And you would do whatever you needed to do to make sure that your kids unlearned whatever they learned in school. You would spend a lot of time, if the kid came home and was like, oh, that beer, it tasted kind of good. You would spend whatever time you needed to convince your child, and if you needed to bring in other people, you would do whatever you needed to make sure your kid knew, not good, not good, not good. You wouldn't just say, oh, ho, I guess, chalo durbagya se ye seekh gaye. But this is what we're doing with our education system. Oh, and then we just go on. As communities, it's our tax dollars that are funding schools. It's our tax dollars that are paying the salaries of ministers of education, secretaries of education. We're the ones funding this stuff. We have a right to make sure that our children are learning what we want them to learn in school. And as with any business, there's a law of supply and demand. If there were really a demand for value-based schools, education is a fantastic business. The amount of money most schools take from parents, if there were really a demand for value-based education, as much as there is for which foreign universities kids get placed in, those would be the schools that were blossoming all over the place. But as parents putting our kids in school, what are we asking? Acha, kitni percentage are going to university abroad? Acha, how many percentage are going here, going there? Nobody's asking. What are the kids actually learning? Acha, what percentage are cracking the G-mains? What percentage are getting this? As a society, let us get our heads screwed on right. And then we will be able to raise our children and run our societies the way they need to be run. But when our heads aren't even screwed on right, how are we going to parent others? How are we going to educate others? So first we need to focus on every day, where did I lose myself? In Kam, in Krodh, in Lobh, and all of these things. Where did I get unaligned today? And how can I get back in alignment? And when I'm in alignment, I'm going to bring that to others and share that with others. Yeah. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening. A beautiful morning and day to our family joining us from all over the world. I look so forward to being together with you all again tomorrow. And so much love to you all.